Hi and welcome to this week's Wine Buff video. This week I thought I'd try something different and go down a little bit more of an educational route. Even though education in wine seems a bit boring, the more you learn about wine, amazingly the more interesting it becomes, because it's a bit like rugby. A lot of people don't really know the rules of rugby, like my wife, and so she can't really stand watching rugby. But if you play it a wee bit and you know the rules, it goes a long way in making it a little bit more enjoyable. So it's exactly the same with wine. So this week I thought we'd have a wee look at the wines of the Rhone in France, both the north and the southern Rhone. And hopefully by learning a little bit more, your enjoyment the next time you'll pour a bit into your glass will be all the more. So to put it into context, where is the Rhone? The Rhone is in France, strange enough. Just to have a look at a few different areas to put it in context, we have Champagne at the north. Moving down, we have the Loire on the left hand side, responsible for the likes of Pouilly-Fumé, Sancerre, all that kind of thing, fabulous stuff. Then we move over, we have Burgundy, responsible for some of the most expensive wines in the world, great Pinot Noir reds, we have Chardonnay based whites. Over here we have Bordeaux, and then we hit the Rhone, which is here. So if we click in a little bit more detail on the Rhone. In the north of the Rhone, it's kind of split in two. We have the north and the southern Rhone. The northern Rhone wines you might not be as familiar with because they're really, really expensive by anyone's sort of standards. Good examples of northern wines regularly exceed 50 or 60 pounds or euros in price per bottle, and that's why we don't stock any. So if you've ever had the chance to try some, good luck, and pass some my way as well. So the likes of Côte Rôtie, Condrieu, and slightly more familiar with people maybe are the Cruz Hermitage and Hermitage. Cruz Hermitage tends to be a little bit more affordable, but stay away in general from the ones in the supermarket because they are pretty abysmal and don't really reflect the region very well in my opinion. And Hermitage, which are fantastic wines. They tend to be made for the reds. They're made principally and almost exclusively from the Syrah grape, and the Syrah grape, which is known as Shiraz everywhere else, is a very dark, rich, peppery, tannic wine that lasts for many years. So many wines don't even start to become into drinking until they're at least 10 years old. So you need a little bit of patience with them, and it's another reason why they're not as popular and not as well drunk, I suppose. The whites are made more with the Viognier grape, a little bit of white Grenache as well. They tend to be a little bit oilier in nature and low acidity. Now acidity might sound bad to you, but acidity is very popular in whites with the general public because it's nice. It's the crispness you get from a wine. So whenever you have low acidity and high alcohol, which the Viognier grape has, it tends to be better paired with the likes of food than drunk on its own. So if you like things like nuts and cheese and that type of thing, or even red meats because it's quite a full-bodied white, it's the perfect wine to choose. So that's the northern Rhone. Moving on to the southern Rhone. I suppose some of the sub-regions within the southern Rhone will be a little bit more familiar to a lot of people. So the likes of the Chateauneuf Du Pape is here, and a lot of people are aware of that. We also have Gigondas above there, and then Vaccaris. We have the Côte de Ventoux, and these are wines that we all have. So ignoring the phone in a very professional way that I have, we're going to have a look at some of the wines we have in the shop of this. So in the southern Rhone we have this one here. First of all, it's Chateau Beaubois. It's from a place called the Costières de Nîmes, which used to be looked at as part of the Languedoc, but it's now under the umbrella of the Rhone and the public bodies within Rhone that look after the control of wine. And that happened in 2004. So if you're into wines that are unoaked, this is unoaked. It's quite fruity. It's got things like, I suppose, raisins and plums and chocolate. So if that's your type of thing, that's the wine to go for. And it comes in at $10.99. Next we have a Côte de Rhone. Anything with Côte de Rhone doesn't fall within any of the more sub-regional areas. So this wine can come from anywhere in either the north or the south of Rhone. But generally it'll be more southern Rhone. Because this is a white, you'd expect it to be Viognier, which it is, with a little bit of white Grenache. So again, it's a little bit low acidity, a little bit higher alcohol. This comes in at 13.5%, which is quite a lot for a white, but it goes perfectly, as I say, with nuts and cheese and even red meats because of the full body nature of the wine. Moving along, we have the same maker has a red Côte de Rhone. It's a 2009, which is a fantastic year throughout France, so this is one to get your hands on. It's a little bit fruitier and easier drinking than the other wines like Chateauneuf Du Pape. So if you like a little bit fruitier kind of wine with less spiciness to it, this is the one to go for. And they tend to be quite rustic, so they're very, very food friendly. And this one comes in at $12.99. And then we move up, so that's the hierarchy. We go Côte de Rhone, then we go to Côte de Rhone Village. And then the next level up after the village wines is the actual specific name of the area. So this is sort of your top level of quality of wine in the Rhone. And this is the Côte de Ventoux. This one here is a very, very light red wine. This is from the right-hand side of the southern Rhone, if you get what I'm talking about, sort of the right half of the southern half. And anything from the right half tends to be very light and fruity. So this Ventoux is perfect if you like them nice and fruity, as I said. And then we go sort of the opposite scale of things. This is the same producer, but he's made a Gigondas. Now Gigondas is on the left-hand side of the southern Rhone, and the left-hand side tend to be a little bit more earthy, a little bit heavier than the right-hand side, and a little bit less fruit. So you're talking a little bit more spice, a little bit more earth, and things like dried fruit as opposed to fresh fruit in the flavours. So the Gigondas tend to be very punchy, and it's a really good value play in relation to, in comparison I should say, to Chateauneuf Du Pape. So if you like Chateauneuf Du Pape but you want something a little bit more affordable but every bit as complex, Gigondas is a good one to go for. And this comes in at $18.99. Probably the best value of the lot, I think, is this one here, Vaqueiros. Vaqueiros, I suppose, is the sub-region closest to Chateauneuf Du Pape, and it has the same style of bottle. So it has the sort of crest on it, and I suppose could be seen almost to look exactly like a Chateauneuf Du Pape, apart from the region name here. This is made by a guy who used to own one of the biggest haulage companies in Europe. And what he did was he sold up and bought the best vineyard he could find, and then hired the best winemaker he could get at the time to make this here fantastic white red. Vaqueiros, as I say, it's very good value for money. It tends to reflect the same grape varieties that Chateauneuf Du Pape has, mostly Grenache based, but because it's slightly more for the left hand side of the southern Rhone, you have a little bit more spiciness, a little bit more dried fruit, and a lot more complexity. And because this wine is $15.99, it's one of the biggest sellers in the shop, because it's right up there with the Chateauneuf Du Papes and the big boys. And finally we have the Chateauneuf Du Pape that we stock in the shop. I had this last night myself, and I must say it's steadily growing on me. I tend to prefer a little bit more fruit in the wine, but I'm moving more and more towards the Chateauneuf. As I say, it's a little bit more dried fruit. It's the likes of, I suppose, dates, earth, if you can picture what earth tastes like, but almost like a muddiness, but in a good way, and a lot of spice. And the good examples will have a bit of minerality as well. And by minerality, I mean that they'll have a little bit of the almost chalkiness and stone-like qualities that you can taste, as if the vines had really taken on the flavour of the stony earth. Chateauneuf Du Pape can be made up of 13 potential grape varieties, but most of them are predominated by Grenache, which is the sort of fruitier, juicier type of grape. And as you'd expect, being a Chateauneuf Du Pape, it isn't cheap. It's $29.99, but for those who love the style of Chateauneuf Du Pape, this really will be right up your street, and it's fabulous stuff, but obviously clearly special occasion. Years to look out for the Southern Rhone are vintage of 2007, which is meant to be one of the best almost in decades, and also 2009, which was good throughout France, and particularly Bordeaux. So there we go. It was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, very, very quick and very, very sort of broad, I suppose. But we'll be opening up one of the Rhones this weekend, probably the Côte de Rhone, the $12.99 one, just to give you an idea of what it tastes like. And also we'll be opening up a dessert wine this week, and we're going to be, I'm going to actually pair that up with a few sort of caramelised walnuts and have some blue cheese along, so you can really see what dessert wine's all about. So that's it. Pop into the shop sometime this weekend and have a chat. And until next time, catch you later.